morning, everyone, and good afternoon, depending on where in the world we are. Very warm welcome to everyone to this webinar that we have called Successful Digital Cooperation and Capacity Building Across Borders. When the pandemic hit in March last year, most of us had to climb the steep learning curve during lockdown. And although "you are muted" became last year's buzzword, we have become more or less familiar with Zoom and Teams and whatnot. But one thing is to handle the various technical features of these applications. Another story may be the results of this digital communication. So in this webinar, we have invited a researcher and 2 Norec partnerships to share their findings, experiences, and successes regarding digital cooperation and e-learning in a global South context. The questions we have asked are: what are the preconditions for successful digital cooperation? 2, what kind of digital tools have you found most reliable and effective? And 3, what are your best examples of successful digital cooperation and e-learning? After the introductions, there will be an opportunity for questions and comments. So we kindly ask you to post your questions in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to pass them on to our speakers. Our first speaker today is Dr. Maurice Isabel. Dr. Isabel is Associate Professor at the Department of Information and Communication Technology at the University of Agder, which is in southern Norway. Born in Rwanda, East Africa, he has his education from India, UK, and Norway. And with a research focus on what is called human-centered design of interactive systems and innovation in teaching and learning through digital media technology. I believe he has a lot to share. So the floor, or rather the screen, is yours, Dr. Isabel.
Good morning, everyone. Great. Can you confirm if you see my slide? And the voice is okay?
Everything is okay, Maurice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Norec, for inviting me to this very interesting webinar. Although it was also a bit challenging, but it's really very nice and interesting topic. So the success of digital cooperation and capacity building across borders is quite a wide issue, which is around many continents, but I'll try to take it from a human perspective mostly. The first question which was addressed was, what are the preconditions for successful digital cooperation? Obviously, that's quite broad and it's a multifaceted issue, but I would like to take it from a human-centered perspective. The main reason being that, well, while we talk about digital cooperation and that may give hints to technology, after all, we are dealing with humans. We are working with humans, basically. So that technology is there to support the cooperation. The cooperation has been going on without technology, obviously. So what we need to address in these days, especially with the pandemic and post-pandemic situation, I think will not be very much different, is also to look at how the cooperation which worked in other circumstances, which necessarily didn't depend on technology, can still work. So I'm really convinced any cooperation starts with humans, starts with individuals, and then it becomes institutional. So I think the first precondition is genuine interest, the genuine interest of people who are involved. And from the people, of course, we go to the institution. But first of all, I, as a participant in such corporations, I should be convinced. Why am I involved in this? Why am I involved in a capacity building? Do I see there is the need? Do I see the outcome? Do I see the impact to society in the long run? Or I'm just there so that I can increase my CV, or maybe make some money on the way, or maybe fulfill some political agendas or reasons. So I feel the very first important point is, how genuine are the people involved? How are they interested and why they're interested in working in that corporation itself? Then if we are working with the right people for the corporation, that's a very good starting point. The second one is mutual respect. And mutual respect, I look at it from a broad perspective in a sense. The respect, of course, the basic one is a human-to-human respect, but also that has a lot to do with the culture. It has to do with the situation in which anyone who is involved is in. So we need to start with the feeling that person who is involved is as good as me, and they have also as genuine interest as I do. Then that will make our collaboration, our cooperation, and the communication that supports it much, much easier, and hopefully it will work better. The next point, which is very important as well, is the context and context awareness. Do I know what am I involved in? And by context, I mean multiple levels of looking at the surrounding factors that might make the cooperation work or not work. For instance, I need to know about cultural sensitivities of people who are involved. What do they like? What they don't like? I need to know about the environment from a physical environment perspective. I appreciate when Greta introduced, she said, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, right? And that's quite important, actually. Sometimes you set up meetings, especially with these Zooms, then you assume everyone will be just starting their work at 9. But no, someone is almost going to bed. So we really need to keep in mind the context. And the context also has institutional context in a sense. We need to know that organization we're working with, who else is involved working with them, and what are kind of impact that is likely to have on our cooperation. So context awareness is another key precondition for successful digital cooperation. And with the context, of course, there's a lot to do with the national politics. So people should know what's going on in that place so that they can really go by what is expected and by the norms and rules and regulations. The next important point is co-creation. I guess most people have heard of this supply-driven or demand-driven cooperation. So why do we need this cooperation? Especially if we're talking about capacity building and competence enhancement, who brings what on the table? There should be always an understanding. Whoever is supposed to be the recipient might have some competence already. They might have some resources already. Then how do we create this capacity building program whereby everyone brings something on the board? So we try to embrace this idea of co-creation. And that's quite important, actually, especially when it comes to content design and development. So it does not get created from the perspective of only one partner, but all partners involved. Everyone co-creates. Everyone is involved in the creation of the capacity development or capacity building program that we want to provide to the target group. That's quite important. Then we look at digital literacy, especially now we are talking about digital cooperation, but what does it mean in simple terms? Simple terms means everybody should be able to use the relevant tools, but you should also know how to behave in such environments, how to answer mails and using which language, for example, when people are expected to have their mails answered, what people are expected to see if you're in a video like this one, for example, what are the challenges there, and what is the best way of combining a number of tools that you can use to make the cooperation work. I'll get back to the tools in my next slide as well, but digital literacy is an important key point, because if you want to work with someone, you should know if they're capable of using the tools you're using, for example, if they know the way of behaving in digital environments as well. If not, then we need to be able to provide necessary trainings and competence development programs so that everyone is able to navigate through the digital platforms and environments that we are using. The last one is the infrastructure. Especially the Global South is very constrained in terms of infrastructure. Of course, it varies from a country to a country, even from region to region, from cities to rural areas. It's quite important to make sure everyone can have access to the technology that is necessary. Simple things like a mobile phone, for example. If you're designing a training where people are supposed to do mobile learning, you need to make sure everyone who should be involved in the program can have access to that small device. It may look like a small problem if you think of some of the devices costing $20, $30, but on a large scale, it's quite important everyone has access. And that also brings the idea of inclusion. How do we make sure nobody's left behind? Do they have the connectivity to the mobile networks, for example, if we are going to use internet? So infrastructure is another key issue, and that has to do as well with the funding models. How do these corporations get supported from funding partners, but also from within the recipients of the funds? The infrastructure should be taken care of. Then the another question was, what are the reliable and effective digital tools? There are a plethora of tools, but I like to see 4 main categories. One is what we can use for voice calls and instant messaging. Tools like WhatsApp, for example, seem to be very, very important in making sure digital cooperation is successful, since most people already have a smartphone of a kind. It goes really fast because they use this in their other daily life tasks as well. So if you send an email, for example, to most people, that's for archiving. So people will not really respond, and they will not see it as fast as if it was an instant message. Then we have tools for file sharing and knowledge co-creation. Again, bringing back the idea of co-creation, participatory design, so everyone is involved. We need to have tools where everyone can bring something on board. One of the quite well-working tools is Google Drive, where you can create a document, create files and folders. Everyone can have access to them. But if you have a little bit more technical competence, you can also use the so-called own cloud, where you can create all your documents and files of different types. And that can be private as well, better than Google Drive in terms of the security and the privacy of the data you put there. There's another good tool, which is called Trello, that also helps, especially with the tracking, the tasks, tracking what people have committed to do at what time. And again, that also helps to share the knowledge in terms of the document repository and other materials that you need to use there. And obviously, video calls are very important, video communications, since especially with the pandemic, we cannot really travel and see each other face to face. It's quite important to be able at least to keep a little bit of human touch. Community engagement is very important. How do we visualize this digital cooperation actually, and how do we make sure everybody can have access to information generated in the best possible way? And that has to be updated as well. So some of the tools include project wikis and simple websites created, for example, using tools like WordPress. That's very easy to use, and it's also easy to administer if you have to involve several people. The last question, I would like to share an experience where we created a platform for community awareness about certain diseases. And that was implemented in Tanzania. We created the website. We created also a mobile app where people can actually have access to the information, health information about several diseases. And we tried to keep in mind all the preconditions that I mentioned, including the context awareness, including the availability of infrastructure, including the context, especially when it comes to languages and cultures. For instance, we provide materials in both English and Swahili, and that's not just a mere translation. We also have to use concept of what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in that place. So please, if you can visit this website, so you can find more details there. And the mobile application is also available for free, so everyone can have access to it. In this product, we have videos, we have text, we have quizzes. So in the end, we also measured, we found the uptake of health information has really increased with this tool. With this, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And you will not walk alone. I've learned from giraffes, they never walk alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maurice. I'll call you Maurice, Dr. Isabel. I think you had so much relevant learning for all our partners and for Norec as such. And I guess there will be questions for you. We'll do that after all 3 introductions. So I'll just remind people again to write your questions in the Q&A box. My colleague next to me reminded me that I forgot to introduce myself. I was so eager to introduce the others. So my name is Grete Tingelstad. I work as a training advisor with Norec, and I know that I have met quite a few of you from before. And also a quick reminder that this webinar will be recorded, so it will be published on our website later, so that we can go back to your your introductions again. So thank you so far, Dr. Isabel. We'll come back to you later. For our second introduction, we have invited representatives from the Norec-funded WAVE-DHAN partnership. Nasma Sultana, also known as Lily, has been working in the development sector for more than 13 years, with first-hand experience in development communication for 11 years. Besides communications as her major field of work, she has specialized in youth development, policy, advocacy, and networking. She completed her regional master's program as a NORAD fellow in journalism, media, and communication. And she also holds a Master of Social Sciences and Social Welfare at the University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. Rehana Noor is an agriculture professional with more than 5 years of experience in working in different research and development organizations. After her education from Germany and Bangladesh, she has been involved in several projects in ICT and agriculture. She is specialized in climate smart agriculture, farmers producer organization, agriculture value chain, and ICT for D. She's also been a Norec participant on exchange from Bangladesh to India, and I myself have had the pleasure of meeting her at our Norec trainings in Bangkok. So Nasma and Rehana, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Grete. I would like to switch off my video for a smooth internet connection. A very warm welcome on behalf of WAVE Foundation Bangladesh and WAVE-DHAN Foundation India. Our project is Small Farming, a Viable Business, where WAVE is acting as coordinating partner and WAVE-DHAN is the partner organization. WAVE and WAVE-DHAN partnership started in 2016, where young professionals have been exchanged in 2 countries to learn operation and management of farmer producers organizations and scientific rearing method of black Bengal goat. Later on, they started replicating these models in their country context. Since April 2020, the physical exchange has been shifted to a virtual mode. Participants, partnership have explored a new avenue of opportunities and chalked out an innovative way forward to embrace digital cooperation. Interestingly, the partnership has been oriented and practiced digital tools at a limited scale before paradigm shift on virtual mode. However, both partners considered some preconditions for bringing new momentum and success in digital collaboration, such as effective communications and understanding, smooth internet connectivity, digital knowledge at staff level, flexible to adapt new technologies, and be responsible. Partnership has explored several digital tools to fit the best settings respective to their surroundings and found these reliable, like email correspondence, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, FPO monitoring tool, and in certain cases, we used WhatsApp. We admit there are few challenges in digital interaction. So in particular, to make group discussion and participant mentor monitoring training more interactive, these tools found most effective, like Jamboard, Padlet, breakout room session. So used all these tools for making our discussion and meeting more interactive. Now, on behalf of our team, Rehana will present.
Thanks, Liliapu. So as you have seen in our last slides about the reliable digital tools used within the partnership, now when it comes to the best example and successful e-learning, partnership has explored and executed several innovative approaches and solutions like digital training and module development, ICT-based FPO monitoring tool, webinar, and e-newsletter. In the upcoming slides, I will try to explain this. So in this slide, you can see the picture of the BBG training. So for example, since the physical exchange has postponed, so therefore a big challenge for the partnership was to find out a meaningful solution for the professionals for learning the FPO and BBG model and build a flexible bridging among their mentors whenever they need them most. The digital training and suitable digital modules make the professionals and mentors capable to exchange their knowledge within. So in this slide, you can see the pictures, which is handled by the WAVE Foundation mentor to offer the digital training of Black Bengal goats in scientific rearing method to the DHAN participants. So in the next slide, you can see the picture of the operational management of the farmer producer organization offered by the DHAN mentor to the WAVE participants to learn this model. So in the next slide, you can see that as like challenges for the professionals to learn in digital mode instead of physical exchange, community members and field staff are considered the most vulnerable stakeholders to address and adopt the digital exchange for both partners. To shed light on this problem, WAVE designed a problem-oriented solution that is an ICT-based FPO monitoring tool and Android app. This is a sustainable platform for the partners, staff, and community members to learn and operate the FPO model remotely online. Through this model, the FPO coordinator and members can access the information of registration, production, sale, and agronomic management, pest and disease management. On the other hand, the FPO coordinator can upload and track the FPO's production, governance and management, financial management in a single platform. In the next slide, likewise, in the web application of the FPO monitoring tool, admin from head office and agro expert can access the inquiry made by the farmers on crops and BBG. And furthermore, admin can track and monitor the financial management, production cost and sell amount, governance and management by following the record of the meetings held among the members. We believe this is an inclusive solution-based digital approach where on the one hand, WAVE can monitor and facilitate their staff and the FPO members to operate the FPOs while involving young professionals remotely online successfully. On the other hand, WAVE is arranging training for DHAN to exchange this experience and knowledge of developing such a solution. Later on, the legacy of learning can spur the project results to achieve. Thanks from my side.
Thanks, Rihanna. Another example of successful e-learning is e-newsletter in collaboration with partnership and professionals. These are circulated both internally and externally. We use native and English, both languages, to ensure outreach at field level and international audiences. We ensure our outreach through email, website, Facebook, and other online platforms. Another milestone was the webinar arranged by WAVE on prospects of FPO in Bangladesh. We showcased our achievements thus far from these 3 rounds of exchange in front of the different stakeholders, in particular government, non-government, media, farmer organization, and youth in digital mode, and was able to establish micro-macro linkage. Throughout the successful digital cooperation and e-learning, we have ensured the outcome at 3 levels. From the individual side at participants level, they have gained these skills on digital communication, digital problem solving, and affinity. Also, the outcome at institutional level, whereas both partners conducted series of meetings to identify and successfully execute the innovative approaches in digital exchange. Besides, community level outcome is another achievement of this partnership when it comes to digital cooperation. Community farmers were able to sensitize about digital tools despite different challenges faced. This project and partnership have a direct contribution to SDG 2, 8, and 17. We use these digital platforms to reach and showcase our activities, outputs, and outcomes of the projects and give hashtag of the SDGs goals. So we reach to our audience through Facebook, Gmail, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and through website. From this short span of digital cooperation, the partnership was capable of adapting different challenges and embracing those challenges to find a solution-based approach. We are on track to achieve our project expected results following the digital cooperation. Our participants and the staff are replicating the respective models learned throughout the exchange in the digital mode. And finally, we look forward to the sustainability of the project, no matter what, either digital or physical exchange comes in our path. Mentionable, Norec e-learning has been excellent support for this partnership and professionals to feed the digital exchange and strengthen the digital collaboration. Let's pray for pandemic-free world. Stay safe and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Nasma and Rehana. And thank you for your kind words regarding the Norec e-learning. We're very happy to hear that. And you know from before that I'm impressed with what you were doing when you were doing physical exchange, and now you have been able to really transfer to digital exchange. And I'm sure that there will be more comments and questions to you after the third introduction. So thank you so far. And maybe to show the diversity of the Norec partnerships, going from goat herding and agriculture to sexual and reproductive health rights. Our final introduction today, we have invited two representatives from the WAVE Global project. They are both former Norec participants, and they both represent Young Women's Christian Association, YWCA. Elizabeth Messaros Håkenåsen has been on exchange from YWCA Norway to YWCA Kenya, and Beth Kavira has been on exchange from YWCA Kenya to YWCA Norway, working on sexual and reproductive health rights. Elizabeth holds a master's degree in international education from UK. She has worked with organizations in Uganda and Kenya with focus on women and girls empowerment since 2015, and now she's working as a gender and human rights specialist in UNFPA in Mozambique. Well, that is until travel restrictions are cancelled. She works remotely from her home office in Norway. Beth holds a Master's of Arts degree in project planning and management, and she currently works as a sexual and reproductive health and rights advisor with YWCA Kenya. So Elizabeth and Beth, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Greta, for the introduction. Elizabeth and I, as you've mentioned, were on a Norec project last year, and we are happy today to share our good practices and the experiences that we gained through this very noble project of Norec Exchange. Elizabeth was in Kenya last year, but she came back to Norway, where I had the opportunity to work with her in the WAVE Global offices, and we really had much to do in Norway and in Kenya together regarding sexual reproductive health and rights. So Elizabeth, you can go on.
Thank you, Beth. Yes, we had to go digital quite fast last year when the pandemic hit. So the physical gatherings and sessions we planned to have in Kenya became digital on Zoom, but it was quite successful. We had sessions every second week in the evening during curfew hours in Kenya. We had around 20 participants in each session, where we discussed different subjects related to SRHR and mental health. All the participants, all the volunteers received airtime on forehand so that they could have internet access. And most of them had their own equipment. The good thing about this kind of gatherings on Zoom is that the participants had more freedom to engage and to discuss more controversial topics than what might be possible in a physical gathering. And we reached participants from a huge geographic area. And it enabled us to meet more frequently, since this is quite cost efficient compared to when we have to gather volunteers from a huge area with everything from transport to food to accommodation. So that was very nice. And these sessions also became more like safe spaces for youth, where they could discuss mental health issues and struggles and share tips and tricks on how to cope during the pandemic, which was really nice. And the other example I want to illuminate is that we had a global webinar, which is usually an annual event that WAVE Global hosts every year in Oslo for 7 days with 40 to 50 participants. But last year we did it digitally. It lasted for 3 days, and we had speakers from our partners in Europe, in Africa, and in Asia. And we reached so many participants. We had around 70 participants in all the sessions. More than 150 people registered for the webinar. And this enabled us to host much more participants and partners and reach people we would normally not reach or have been able to invite to Oslo. We discussed important topics with speakers from refugee settlements, peace building movements, environmental movements, and also challenges on, for example, gender equality and conflict and violence, and different subjects. After the week, we had a Facebook group established where upcoming events and connections were made more accessible for the participants. And WAVE Global also has established an e-learning platform to all the participants so that they can get content from there. It was a very big advantage to have the opportunity to follow up on country participation with the registration on forehand to see who was there and who was saying what. And we used different angles to discussion with videos, cross-country nexuses, polls, interactions on chat and breakout rooms, which was really useful.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And when we talk about the kind of digital tools that we found most reliable and effective, regarding what Elizabeth has talked about on the success stories and many, many more, which we've not mentioned, we appreciate that we started digitalization last year, and that has enabled us to go on with the digitalization this year, where now we are working under the Norec project. We are working in partnership with other countries. And we find that before we post or rather have any event, it's always good to send out posters, either on websites, Twitter, Instagram, the social media platforms, so that it is helpful for the participants or rather the resource persons to be aware of any event that we are going to hold or any discussion regarding SRHR, so that they can also join in advance. And when we talk about digital tools that we use, it also depends on the target audience, because there's also a difference when you're targeting those in the rural settings and those in the urban settings. And when we talk about the rural settings, we find that those on WhatsApp and Facebook, WhatsApp and Facebook is most reliable, especially with those in the age group of 13 to 35 years. And also we try to maximize traditional media, which is local television and radio stations, when we're talking about these discussions on SRHR, or rather we want to send out messages regarding SRHR. And when we talk about those in the urban settings, then we maximize the use of Instagram, Twitter, and also partially use WhatsApp and Facebook. But we find that if you really want to engage more people, timely, frequently, and running a conversation, it's easier to use WhatsApp. And from a success story, we find that this year and last year, when we went digital, we are able to reach a wider coverage, a wider target audience, as compared to when we used to do things physically, which is quite a very noble idea that Norec and partners came up with in terms of digitalization, because we find that even in our YW safe spaces, the ones that we have now are more than the ones that we had initially, and this has been because of digitalization. And when when we want to engage both professionals and the youth, both in the rural and urban settings, maybe for a panel debate, we maximize on use of Twitter so that they can engage on Twitter chat for various SRHR topics. So in summary, we find that depending on what we are going to discuss, if it's for advertisement, if it's for debate or advocacy messages, if it's for mobilizing groups, that's when we maximize the various social media platforms involving Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp and Zoom, depending on the target audience. Yes.
Yes. So the preconditions for successful digital cooperation. I'm going to talk about my connection to the volunteers and what was the preconditions there, and then Beth will address how the staff in the partnership are working together digitally. It's a great advantage to be familiar with the target people and to have met them on forehand, or to know that you will meet them, to have a more personal connection. It's sometimes tricky to only meet people digitally. One really important aspect is to have financial support so that the people you engage with have internet access. We use Zoom and WhatsApp mostly to engage with the volunteers. It's important to be flexible and available on different timings, both because of time difference, but also because of curfew hours and other commitments people have. It's important to keep the conversation going. So I quite often shared like events or relevant articles on the WhatsApp groups, which I think was highly appreciated. To reach out to new volunteers online was challenging. However, the volunteers who were already engaged, they engaged other volunteers. So the group grew, which was a nice experience. The internet connection was sometimes challenging. But usually although they fell a bit in and out and we had to turn off the cameras, it was useful. So it's not a limitation, it's just a consideration to do. Digital equipment can be a challenge when volunteers don't have smartphones or laptops. But they usually found a way to borrow someone's phone, or maybe their sister or brother also joined in if they had a phone. Yeah, Beth?
Oh, yes, Elizabeth, thank you. I'm going to talk about the preconditions when staff in the partnership are involved. It's good to note that this year under the Norec project with Y Global, we are having a partnership with Ethiopia, Tanzania, Kenya, Norway, and South Sudan, where we are able to carry out the partnership digitally, which is actually such a good idea, because then we are able, to have more frequent meetings and also meet a wider target, as we said. And one of the preconditions that has to be there when we are working in the partnership is that we have to make sure that all the staff are active on Zoom, or rather use of emails and WhatsApp, because those are kind of the main platform when we are talking about staff in partnership. And we also have to have these frequent meetings to know what each partner has planned for the quarter or the month or for any event maybe, and also so that we can update each other on what is happening on a monthly or rather a weekly basis. And this has proved to be so good because now we are aware. We don't have, to go and meet physically so that you can know what each person is doing. We just schedule a Zoom meeting, and then boom, we are able to learn from each other, which is quite good. We also understand that we need to have good and very stable internet connection, which is sometimes a challenge, as the first presenter said, in the global south. So we need to have, Wi-Fi and also have data bundles in place so that this can really happen. And also you find that most of the times we experience power blackout. So it's good to have power backup in terms of generators so that this can be successful. And we find that, for example, in South Sudan, most of the times, the internet is not good. You find that maybe, or rather any other country that is in partnership in the global south, most of the times people are not able to join on time due to the delayed internet connections. But then we need to make sure that before any meeting, we need to have this in place for easier and smooth partnership, digital partnership. Yes. Elizabeth? Yes, so digitalization, as Elizabeth is, okay, yeah, Elizabeth?
Sorry. Yeah, so to conclude from our side, digital tools has filled up the gaps in reaching and engaging people in a more cost-effectively and frequent way. However, it doesn't replace the importance of meeting physically too. So a combination would be ideal. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth and Beth. I can only repeat what I said after Nazma and Rihanna, that you know, as I always say on trainings, I'm so proud of being part of Norec, because we have so many good representatives and so many successful partnerships and successful participants. We have, I can see that Maurice has started replying in the Q&A box directly, but we have, I think maybe I'll just start with a question to Nazma and to Lily and Rihanna. Let me just do the technical part here. Yeah, so this is from Julie Karima. Hello, WAVE. How do you picture your program when it allows for physical exchange again? Will you keep any of the tools and approaches that you have started using now? So a question for you, Nazma and Rihanna first.
Rihanna, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Liliapa, and thanks, Grete, and thanks the person who actually asked this question. Yeah, we believe that digital exchange cannot be replaced by physical exchange. So we somehow are prepared and hoping that digital exchange will start soon, so that our participants can go and mutually exchange and learn the model physically. And we as an organization and as a partnership, our staff, participants, and the partners are ready to actually go into the new settings of the physical exchange again. And the other question the person asked, that will they keep any kind of tool or approaches that they have started using now? Yes, we will. For example, if you notice to my presentation, there is mention about the ICT-based FPO monitoring tool, the Farmer Producer Organization monitoring tool. This is a very inclusive ICT-based monitoring tool, where actually we've designed not only to operate it in digital way, but also a sort of a replacement of the physical activity so that we can monitor it in online as well. I can give a concrete example for one particular parameters that we use while designing this FPO monitoring tool. For example, before this pandemic, when the physical movement was not restricted, we were able to visit to the farmers' field and get the raw data from them, how they are managing their finance, how they're managing their governance and management, how the farmers meeting and farmer group discussion are being held, what kind of assets they are purchasing from their fundraising. So, but now it's not possible, I mean, sort of restricted. So through this monitoring tool, our FPO coordinator can upload these pieces of information into the system, whereas an admin panel can see and track the financial management and the governance and management, whereas the meeting is held improperly or not. We can send them a notification, so see there is a problem, so we should go to the farmers, talk to them, or if there is a gap among the members and the staffs that they are not giving their monthly subscription fee regularly, so they can go and visit to the members, sit together and solve out the problems. And also another option is here that the farmers can directly get the e-agro advisory service. So whenever the physical exchange will start, they will also able to get this e-agro advisory service to our FPO monitoring tool. And here from that main panel, we can actually monitor how many farmers are taking these services and how effective these are actually at the field level. So I think I was able to give a very short answer, but again, if you have any further questions, you can always come and visit our website. We are here to answer what you want to know about us and about our projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rihanna. A question to Elizabeth and Beth from Kari Norec. She says, why do you believe that the participants in the digital workshops felt more free to talk about controversial SRHR issues when meeting online than if they were to meet physically?
Yeah. The thing is that before the sessions I had like a questionnaire that I sent to them with different suggested topics that they could choose from. So I knew that they were interested in the topics that I chose because I chose the ones they wanted. I think it's because it's a good and a bad thing. On the internet, you can be a bit less visible. You also have the bad side where it's a lot of bullying and negative things going on. But you also have it a bit on the positive side that you have the opportunity to type if you're more comfortable. You can answer. I had some polls and with questions so that they could, I didn't know who was saying what, but they could vote on if you feel like this, if you feel like this, if you have a hard time, if you have a hard time like this, and also with the more controversial subjects, it opened up a different kind of conversation because they could discuss more freely. They were sitting in their own room with their own phone, and there was no, they didn't look at each other with like, ooh, or anything like that. And it, as I said, since we could also meet more frequently compared to what is possible when you are physically in exchange, because of the area I was covering I think it was like 5 hours to drive from A to B in some places. So maybe they felt more safe on each other, that they met more frequently and they were more open. I cannot really say exactly why, but I think it's that combination.
Yeah, and maybe to add to what Elizabeth has said, the good thing with digitalization is you can also choose to be anonymous. Such controversial topics are so difficult to, discuss in our countries. And since it's the participants who had chosen actually the topics that they want to discuss, and they chose those topics, so that shows that there is a really big need in discussing those topics. And through digitalization, one can choose to be anonymous and discuss freely, ask whatever they want, and get the correct information. Contrary to physically, where you can really see who is asking. Yeah, and that limits participation when it's physical.
Thank you very much. Maybe we could pose almost the same question to you, Maurice, Dr. Isabel. Based on your experience, do you find that it's easier to open up, so to say, on difficult issues through digital media than when you meet physically? And could you also say a little bit, you have had a question regarding security, and this is partly a security issue as well, isn't it?
Yes, thank you. I want to agree and emphasize what Beth said, actually. And it's not only with these corporations, even in classrooms, because these days we are involved mostly in Zoom for teaching. So people kind of feel they're hiding behind screens. And there's another reason why most people don't like to put on a camera, for example, when we are teaching in a Zoom, because they feel they are in their own space. And if they type, usually they can, one, express themselves better than talking. And it also goes a lot with the cultures. Like in my culture, where I come from, as I'm Rwandan originally, you wouldn't really look eye to eye with your parents, for example. If you're 15 or 16 and you want to talk about sexual reproduction issues with your mom or dad, especially, you really can't face their face. But if you have a chance to send a message which is anonymous, then it's likely to happen. So the digital platforms help people to feel a bit more confident. And also the backlash. Like I remember many years ago, it's probably the same for teenagers. If you ask a grown-up about the sexual reproduction things, first they start accusing you of having done this and that. But if they're angry, sometimes they even hit you. But they can't hit you if you're behind these platforms. So that really helps. Then when it comes to security issues, we also have to look at what levels. Is it at the level of a community, or it's some issues which are mostly politically sensitive? Then, as I was suggesting, one of the solutions would be in investing in more self-controlled platforms. But again, you need to look at who am I fighting? What kind of weapons do they have? And what am I protecting, by the way? How important is it that the authorities should not know? Then depending on the importance of what you are trying to protect, invest more into platforms. As far as I can tell from a technology perspective, it's very possible to run your own platforms and almost no one can break into it. But of course, who is that one who you're trying to protect against? Defines also how much you should be investing in that direction.
Thank you.
And we think that Greta,
yes.
just one more point, such kind of challenges are the reasons you find that we have safe spaces at YWCA Kenya, for example, where people can engage freely. And I would say that digitalization has complemented this. So now we have a wide range where people can express themselves without fear of judgment.
Exactly. I think maybe there's a question from Nadira Pervin. It's a big question. Maybe I'll just post the same question to all three of you, and sort of that will end our today's conversation. And the question is, and maybe I can start with you, Beth and Elizabeth. If the issue is skill development for particular targeted audience with low digital knowledge, what could be the most appropriate way to reach them with technology and information? Can I start with you, Beth and Elizabeth?
Okay, yes, I can start with that. Yes, as Elizabeth and Maurice had mentioned, you need to have digital, skills for you to participate in this. And you find that most of the times we offer young people, computer skills trainings so that they can be able to engage in these platforms when we call them to participate. So we try to empower them by giving them these skills as frequent and as much we can, by giving them computer trainings in our various organizations. Maybe if someone wants to add something.
Yeah, I can also say that it's also like the best way of learning is practical training. So, they will get like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, this is the equipment. And then it's also a learning by doing. So I feel like the practice, the volunteers I worked with last year, the practice they got from participating in different kind of webinars and sessions and, in different platforms, they have grown so much. So, yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
I would like to.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Greta. I would like to just add one point from our experience. More or less same. For staff and participants, sometimes it's much easier than community level. So when we go to community level, especially to our farmers, sometimes they are hesitated, discomfortable, and they are technophobic to some extent. So in this case, we usually gather them in this pandemic situation. We maintain social distancing, and we invite them at our office setup at our remote area or urban setting in the countryside. We invite them and we try to give them the literacy on digital tools and how they can use it. Also, sometimes we extend support with the devices. Sometimes it's difficult for internet penetration, and also devices are not affordable for them. In this case, we always try to make them comfortable with the education and as well as how they can use the device. So they feel comfortable and they go back to their community and they learn they teach other people how they can use it. So we try to cover this in this way.
Thank you very much. And,
can I use just 1 minute?
Yes, please.
One first approach.
Can I just add a part of that to that question? Are we seeing a division between ages here now? Are the young people are more, well, if you could reflect a little bit on young people and older people in this regard.
I want to take it from a human-centered point of view. Yeah. Humans are humans, and any type of information we want to pass on goes as humans have communicated all the time. Tell stories, basically. Just tell them stories. Tell stories through visuals. Tell stories through words, because that's how humans have been communicating. Then at the next level, they may start typing and writing and so on. So provide videos and audios if you want to reach the people who are very low illiterate. Then use what they have in hand. Almost everyone, old and young, can use a mobile device. By device, I mean whatever it is. And they can click, one click, open a video. Everyone will know what you're telling them or listen to their sound. My dad is almost 80 and he's in Rwanda. He's using WhatsApp. Whatever video you put there, he's super happy. We trained Masai herders in villages, remote villages in Tanzania. They can't read, they can't write. Still, they learned how HIV gets transmitted. They learned how to protect their animals and so on through storytelling. Most of us like to hear, to listen to stories. I think that's what we can do for that category.
Thank you very much. That's a very good example. Well, I said that was the final question, but let's do one more. There's also kind of a philosophical question here from someone who says, how do we make sure that interpersonal skills are not lost due to the frequent use of digital platforms? That we do not end up having population that can only express themselves by writing, not through word of mouth. How do we strike the balance? I think you concluded, all of you, that we need both, but still a few words from each of you before we end this discussion. Maurice?
Yeah, we could end the discussion, but again, try to provide opportunities for human-to-human communication, not only send text, but allow such things like a webinar, for example. Let people express themselves in the most possible natural way, like this one. It really helps. And in the end, we'll try also to maintain social norms and some regulations which we usually use in human-to-human communication. I think we can't just say, okay, everything goes online, it will work. No, we need to provide venues for direct communication, or the so-called synchronous communication. So we should not keep everything just online. Make sure we can also talk. If I give just one example, we do something called shut up and write with our students, because now they're sitting home, we expect them to deliver essays and so on, but who knows, maybe they're not writing. We ask them from 9 to 10, you're on the camera with me. Whether you write or not is a different story, but at least you're in the mood. The teacher is there, you are there, and it really works.
That's a good idea. Thank you very much. Nasma and Adriana, final comments from you. You're muted, Nasma.
Thank you, Grete. So actually, it was a great opportunity for WAVE-DHAN partnership to learn and share. And we are looking forward to replicate our new learnings from this webinar to doing this digital collaboration into a new momentum. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And Beth and Elizabeth, some final comments from you?
Yeah, no, I think it's very important to speak, like not only type. Like when you can meet physically, facilitate for that. But when it's not possible, then call. Like Beth and I, we have almost not been typing since we are on different continents, right? So we have mostly been on phone or on Zoom to do this. We have not been typing and not talked, because it's about that intercommunication social communication, and it's important to use your voice. Like I can sit a whole day and not have talked to anyone, just typed. It does something to your mind as well. So yeah, I don't know what you want to add, but.
No, it's fine. It's good work with Norec. And I would like to say, as we concluded with Elizabeth, digitalization has helped, but let it not substitute the physical, exchange. We can use it as a complement, but not a substitute. But it has really helped.
Let that be the last word. Thank you very much. We're all looking forward to meeting physically, to hugging and to whatnot. And but I thank you everyone for taking part in this. The webinar has been recorded, so you can see it again on our website whenever it will be posted there. Thank you everyone, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Över ända. Ja.